welcome back to another video here on the channel, which is a start of a new Create-A-Sim series. If you've happened to catch the creation of my recent speed build, sort of a speed build, I wouldn't put speed as it, but you know, my most recent build here on the channel, you probably already know what this Create-A-Sim is going to be about. Now, a little over a year and a half ago, I actually started dating my boyfriend, and he is really into D&D, and he got me into liking it. I've always liked character creation stuff and like making stories and all that stuff, so I've always really enjoyed that stuff, and part of me always was curious about D&D, and the other part of me was just like not concerned with it whatsoever. So once I was with him and he started going a little bit more on and on about it, it made me very intrigued by it, and now I've fallen down the rabbit hole of constantly making characters in my head, even if I never get to play most of them. Most likely that is what's gonna happen, unless I try to DM once, and technically I wouldn't be playing, I would just be using them in the story of my world, but that works. But anyway, I decided to try to create them in Sims. Now, giving some of them's like D&D race, some of them are very hard to make. Of course, the train decides to come by right when I do a voiceover. I don't think I've heard it all day, and there it is. Anyway, this is the very first character I ever created. I technically got to play 2 games with her, so she is the one character out of all of them that I've actually got to sort of play. But then COVID happened, and we haven't actually like tried to have a session again since. Sadly, it's just things are not working out well to bring it back. But hopefully one day it will happen. And if so, I will be playing this lovely character here, which is Nita. Now, before I get too far into about Nita, with this series, not only am I going to be creating these characters in front of you, and you get to see the whole creation process of trying to make this character in Sims, I'm going to go into a little bit of their backstory, not like dive deep, it's not a deep dive, and give like a little bit of characteristics and stuff about them, and also talk about how I'm actually planning on using them with the build that I am creating on the channel currently as well. I will have a link down in the description below to that builds playlist, so that you can go see the build if you haven't seen the build at all, or if you've only seen parts of it. Basically, in the end, once this Create-A-Sim and that build series in, I'm actually going to be putting all of my D&D characters, or the majority of them that I create in this series, into the house and do like a little mini-series and sort of experiment and see what happens when I put them all in a house together. I'm going to be using a mod that allows them to have 5 traits. Obviously, likes and dislikes is now a thing. Now, at the time of me recording Nita, and I think the next character, likes and dislikes was not a thing. Well, I think maybe they were, I just hadn't updated my game yet because I was afraid to update it with all of my CC, and once I felt safe to update it, I updated it. So, characters from a certain point, I do fix their dislikes and likes. I don't include it in the video because it takes a little bit longer to go through the likes and dislikes. But all of them will have likes and dislikes as well, so there's a lot of things that will be factoring in their personalities, and just seeing them thrown in together is something that really intrigues me to see what happens. But now let's talk about the lovely Nita here. Now with Nita, I didn't necessarily, since she was the first one, I was experimenting around with her a bit. There's some characters that I try to stick to their clothing options extremely close, and then there's other characters that I get a little bit more relaxed on their clothing options because of how I know. It's just sort of when I went in to create that particular character is how I went. With Nita, she's one of the more relaxed ones. I tried to get outfits that sort of resembled some of her stuff. I have a lot of ribbons sort of hanging off of her, so the outfit I give her has like a ribbon thing. She technically has like some braided hair, and I tried to give her like technically hair down with some braids all around it. I will try to have a picture, which it would have already should have passed, but with all of these characters, I will try to remember to try to take a picture of my drawing of them, because I've been drawing them, and put it at the beginning for a little bit so that you can see what I have drawn them as, how I perceive them, and what I'm trying to make them from with Sims. So, yeah. Now, in terms of Sims, I do give all of them a spot for the last name. Some of them I will go more in depth on whether or not they actually are last name. For Nita, it is Nita ZuZu. For her backstory, so just to get into her backstory a little bit, her race is a snow elf, or what are they? If you wanted to get real particular, me and my boyfriend both, like, he's okay with homebrew stuff and things like that, and I like the idea of homebrew stuff, just because it allows you to have a little bit more creativity versus trying to stick to certain basics of, like, the player's handbook and stuff like that, and depending on whether or not you add some of the unearthed arcana into it and all that stuff. But anyway, I think there is a type of elf, it starts with an E, Eldarine elf or whatever, that is a seasonal elf and can be with the seasons, so you could also consider her that, but she's solely focused on winter. But I personally am calling her a snow elf. She is around 6'2". For elf years, she's 123, which is about young adultish, young adult teen. It's somewhere around in there. Obviously, as I've been referring to her as a she is female. I even went through the part of picking their orientations. Nita is straight. She is a ranger class, and her subclass is going to be Hunter Conclave. And with Nita, she has a little thing that with her story, she has a little companion named ZuZu. You may have seen it in the picture. ZuZu is a sweet little adorable cute snow leopard. I love her. She's adorable. So with Nita's backstory, she belonged to a village of, obviously, snow elves, and her village was attacked when she was quite young. She was a child, and she ran into the nearby forest to try to escape the complete devastation that was happening in her village. She ran so far from fear, and being a child, she wasn't exactly so sure how to get back home. So she was sort of lost in this forest, and eventually once she got to a certain age, she didn't even want to go back to see the village, because things that she had seen, though she has spotty memories of the event, because she's basically almost forced herself to forget, she knows it was bad, and she's pretty sure, she feels like she is the only survivor, but she may not be. The interesting thing about Nita here, if I play her, my boyfriend, who was going to be the DM, actually set up some of the stuff because this was the character I was playing with. He knows things about Nita that I don't even know, because I was going with the whole thing that Nita lost her memory. She sort of repressed them because, like, some of the things were just so bad. So she's not sure if she is the only one living. She believes she is. She's not even 100% sure what her last name is, so I did put her last name in Sims. But in my D&D lore for her, she doesn't even remember her last name. She only kept up with the memory of the name that she was always called by. But while she was in the forest, when she was young, she actually ran across a little snow leopard cub who was injured. She sort of nursed it back to health and waited around sort of out at a distance, because she is at least old enough to know that sometimes you gotta be careful with wild animals, and hoping that the mother would come back and pick up the little baby snow leopard. But the mother never appeared, so Nita sort of took the little snow leopard under your wing. Yes, you're probably wondering how in the world a snow leopard is living as long as an elf. Well, I don't know the full logic behind it. That was one of the things I don't know. All I know is I was told that when I draw ZuZu, she's supposed to have a diamond thing in her head. I drew, like, an actual diamond, and I haven't actually played around with changing it, but the way that my boyfriend told me he thought of it was more of a diamond, like a diamond of a cards. So I actually use in the paint option for creating cats and dogs and stuff like that. I actually use the plumb bob to represent the little crystal on her head. Obviously, cats in Sims are nowhere near the size of snow leopards. Snow leopards aren't necessarily the biggest of the wild cats, but, you know, they ain't just small little house cat either. They got really long fluffy tails. They're absolutely adorable and amazing and cute, and I love them. But yeah, so that is sort of Nita's backstory. She is very shy and awkward in some ways. I mean, she grew up in a forest all by herself for the most part, but she does go out sort of venturing the lines of where there might be people or where she hears people, so that's how she sort of learned a few things and come across a few things and sort of understands things. But that is sort of how she goes about her life. Every once in a while, sneak around, get some things she might need, pay attention to, like, travelers and sort of learn things from them, but stay hidden away from the people. And a lot of her stuff is also scavenged from in the forest. Now my like current drawing of her, and that was like a redraw because I first drew her in a different sketch pad, and that sketch pad I thought got just like liquid had gotten spilled on it, and luckily it hit the back of it, so none of my actual like drawings in that sketchbook that was already in there got messed up. But at the same time, it was warped on the back, and I was afraid to use it anymore, so I actually started drawing in two other sketchbooks, and I actually made a designated D&D character drawing sketchbook. So I redrew Nita over into that one, and most of my drawings that you see is not necessarily how they would look when they started out, because when you start out, you're supposed to have very minimal stuff, and like not like the best of armor or any of those things when you first start out and a campaign, but it's more of just how I envision them eventually becoming. Not necessarily the end look, but like halfway through. Some of the weapons are meant to be like family related ones or something like that, but obviously story wise they could come across those later, unless I was to ever try to DM and would use them as like side characters or whatever. Then, you know, I could do whatever I want. I can make them be a level 1 or I can make them be level 20. So but yeah, you should be seeing the creation of ZuZu at this point. There is going to be some screenshots at the end. Now, as far as the traits that I gave Nita, and I should have sort of talked about this more in the beginning, I did give her the Renaissance sim for the aspiration. I gave her the loner, the cat lover, because ZuZu, loves outdoors, maker, and paranoid. I tried to pick traits that made sense to the type of personality that my D&D characters had, so those are some of the ones. Obviously, she lived by herself for a long time. She is maybe a little bit paranoid because, you know, she never knows if she doesn't know why her village was attacked. She don't know if maybe they'll try to come after her, or, you know, she's not as trusting and stuff, and she's had to make things on her own. She stayed outdoors, and she has a little cat, ZuZu. So, yeah. Hence why I'm giving her the traits that I'm giving her. Now, obviously, during this creative sim, there's only 3 traits. I haven't added the mod in. One, by the time I go to actually do the little mini-series, I have a feeling the mod is going to be updated. I downloaded it ahead of time anyway, just in case, but I'm going to check before I put it into my mods folder to make sure that it is updated before I, like, start using it. So hopefully it works well. If not, the traits that I am giving them right now, like the 3 that I give them right now, are the ones that I want them to have more, like the most out of the 5. So ultimately, even if for some reason I can't use that mod, the main traits that I want them to have are going to be there. But yeah, all of their traits are trying to represent the character themselves. There's a few of them that I'm like, but you know, sometimes you gotta give, like, you know, I gotta take what I can get with these traits. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to putting all these characters into the houses. I'm actually not finished creating all of them. Normally when I start a series, I've actually got all the characters created and I just have to edit the videos. But at this point, I actually don't have them all created in Sims. I'm still working on the last so many. But I'm having loads of fun actually creating these characters. I hope you enjoy. Let me know how you think about Nita and her story, and ZuZu as well. What do you think about her in the comments? If you play D&D, or you at least like making characters for D&D, tell me some of your favorite characters down in the comments below. I'd love to read about other people's D&D characters. I find character creation is so fun, so intriguing. So I definitely would love to hear about yours as well. I truly hope you're looking forward to the series and seeing other creations of mine come to life in Sims, or at least try to come in life in Sims. But thank you so much for watching. Keep an eye out down in the description below for the D&D characters Create a Sim playlist, because I will update this video as soon as the full playlist starts taking off. Obviously this is the first one, so right now there isn't a playlist, but there soon will be, so keep an eye out for that. Again, the house creation is going to be down in the description below as well, so if you want to see the big mansion house thing that I'm working on, I am going to be doing all of their rooms. They all get an individual bedroom, and I'm going to decorate that room based off their personality. So that is another thing that you can look forward to seeing based off these characters. I'm having so much fun with this, and I hope people like it and such, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Make sure you hit that like button, all that lovely YouTube goodiness. Sometimes I forget to say that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Bye bye!